Welcome back. You're still watching the Daily Debate, and I am honored to be having with me over the program for tonight after this short break Dr. Cherif Amir, the Professor of Geopolitical Affairs and International Relations. Thank you very much for being with us tonight on the Daily Debate.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Doctor, I would like to ask you first about the top story that I just read before the report, the first report of the Daily Debate for tonight, which comes from the Egyptian-Sudanese relations. Egypt will be hosting next Thursday a summit of the Sudanese neighbors to be finding a resolution for the conflict going on in Sudan. How do you see the importance of such a step made by Egypt and its possible effects on Sudan for the future?
Well, first of all, it was time, it's about time now that Egypt intervenes in this conflict. President Sisi said it from day one, yes, that we don't wish to intervene. We count on the Sudanese factions to find a solution, the Rapid Reaction Force and the Sudanese armed forces. But unfortunately, things went out of control. Those who are paying the price now are the Sudanese civilians.
Yes.
And we are hosting many of them. We don't wish to call them, of course, refugees. As the president said, we never use this term, and we never put them in tents and camps. We host them. But someone should do something about it. Until now, even in the Al-Adha feast, they didn't respect the truce, and people were killed. And again, it was the civilians, because we all know that the Rapid Reaction Force, they move quickly, swiftly. They know how to hide. The armed forces, they have their defenses, so they can protect themselves. Those who are in the middle are the civilians.
Yes.
So when Egypt is hosting such a summit, it's not for favoring a faction against the other, it's favoring the interests of the Sudanese people. And they have to understand that when they come to Egypt, they're not here to make any political gains, but just giving a chance for peace, a chance for security for the sake of these civilians.
Before heading to the main topic, of course, for the Daily Debate for tonight, I would like to ask one more question regarding this initiative or this summit that will be taking place on Thursday. Three main goals were set by His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi through this summit, which are to be seeking an end to the Sudanese bloodshed, maintaining the Sudanese state institutions, and decreasing the fallout of the crisis on the neighboring countries. How do you think the neighboring countries in specific were affected negatively with the conflict in Sudan?
Well, the effect was really different in every country.
Yes.
Unfortunately, some used it as a way to traffic some arms to gain some positions like that. And unfortunately, we have seen arms coming from factions from Libya, from Chad. And then we had others are trying to separate more and more the factions in Sudan, like Ethiopia and Eritrea. One is supporting the Rapid Reaction Force and the other is supporting the armed forces. So now we have a new division. The only country, and of course South Sudan has its own problems, the only country who's ready to host all these problems is Egypt, because we don't need any unstable situation in this part. Sudan, if we call it like in the terms of the geopolitical terms, our backyard,
yes,
and we don't wish to see any harm to the state institutions, as the president said.
And heading to the main topic for the Daily Debate for tonight, which focuses on, as we just celebrated the 10th anniversary of the June 30th revolution, which took place in 2013, the foreign policy in general under the tenure of His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. How did it develop ever since 2014 and up till now with the world nations, not just with the African continent?
It was a historical, tremendous effort.
Yes.
Why? Because we were, if we can call it like that, the black sheep in all that. We were discriminated. We were the EU was against us. The Obama administration was against us. And the African Union decided to radiate Egypt or stop Egypt's membership, freeze Egypt's membership in the African Union. We paid a very heavy price for our choice of freedom and choice of democracy. But the President Sisi, made a huge effort by going by himself, taking the presidential plane, going to countries like Niger, like Algeria, starting talking to them. They introduced us again to the African Union till we started to have our place again, and we became president of the African Union.
Yes.
With the Western Bloc, I mean the EU, President Sisi met with his counterparts in Paris, in London, and in Berlin to explain that what took place in June 30th was the choice of the people.
Yes.
And all the measures that followed after, it was just for the sake of protecting the security, the sovereignty of Egypt, which is a red line. And we have seen all the countries later, a couple of years later in Europe, they took the same measures. No one claimed that it was against human rights, because
Yes.
it was protecting their own sovereignty, protecting their own security and the security of the civilians, of the people. So they understood that we were right about it. And hopefully, we were having friends at that time in Russia, President Vladimir Putin, and in China, and many of, and of course, let's not forget the Gulf states, who stood with Egypt tremendously.
Yes.
So we had to work as a team, and President Sisi used to say, we have to work together, the people and the leadership, because the legitimacy of the leadership comes from the people.
Yes.
And if everyone will see that the president has the endorsement of the people, no one would dare to intervene in our affairs. So I think that the president was very clear at that time that we have to work upon the files of Africa were neglected. That's why he made visits to Rwanda and Burundi and Ethiopia even, and South Sudan and Djibouti. He made all these tours because we were isolated from our environment, Africa. And then he strengthened also the relations with Eastern Europe. He went to Belarus, he went to Romania, to Bulgaria, to Serbia, and also we started working with the new administration at that time, the Trump administration, and what followed after the Biden administration. It's not easy, because we all know that they had many countries had an agenda to harm Egypt.
Yes.
We did a huge job in maintaining our sovereignty and also our peaceful stance. Look, for example, our relations now with Qatar and Turkey have changed with 180 degrees now.
Yes.
We have managed to rebuild the relationship. Of course, it's not 100%. And we have also something else. Our eastern Mediterranean gas fields.
Yes.
We worked with Cyprus, with Greece, and with what we call it the Club of the Gas, with Israel and Lebanon, and we are working with them to maintain security and peace in this zone.
Yes, Dr. Cherif Amir will be taking a quick break, and we'll be returning once again to you on the Daily Debate, so stay tuned.